Hi folks, Carl James here from Electric Media Madness, and I'm joined again today by Dan Ryan. How you doing, Dan?
Hello, I'm good.
Good. A bit different how we're doing this today because at this point in time, as most people will know by now, we're living in an Orwellian nightmare and we're all under house arrest and the world's gone mad. So obviously the lack of contact between people has affected the way we would normally do these videos, me and Dan. We normally record them together, but we're going to do this over audio today. So episode 9, Et in Arcadia Ego Part 1. What did you think?
Oh god, I couldn't even watch it the first sitting. 11 minutes in, I was like, you know what, actually fuck this show.
Yeah.
Just fuck this show, and I turned it off, and I had to try again later in the evening.
Yeah.
I don't get it. It's so shit.
Yeah, it's a weird one. I mean, I think I said in the last video that I was pretty much reached the point now where I just didn't want to watch this anymore. And this episode has been a weird one because as we're recording this, we're like almost a week away from when it aired. Obviously, life has got in the way and things like that. But I've ended up having to watch it quite a few times because of things going on and stuff like that. And I don't have that same level of with it as I did the last episode. It's just sort of meh. It's just nothing.
It really is.
Ruined it.
Yeah.
So I think what we'll do then is we'll do it the way we usually do it. I have a ton of notes here, so we'll go through that first. If you want to interject at any point, just let me know, and we'll do it like that. So this occurred to me. This is the first episode this season where we haven't opened with a flashback or a dream sequence. We've gone straight into the story, such as it is. So that
wow, I didn't notice.
Yeah, that's interesting. So we start with the Lacerina. I say this every video, but terrible name for a ship. Rattling its way through the Borg transwarp conduit. They're heading towards Soji's planet. And Quirky Girardi is hiding under the table. Please be over, please be over, please be over. She's saying that. You know, I mean,
oh god, it's so awful.
Again, separated. I believe she was separated from the rest of the crew. They were on the bridge. I don't know where she was hiding, where this table was, but
yeah, they all went to the bridge and she stayed behind.
Still, they're obviously being very trusting of her now, aren't they? There's no concerns that she might still sabotage.
Way too much.
And that kind of is a foreshadowing of how much she really does. Her loyalty is just in this episode, especially when we get to the end, but we'll come to that anyway. The ship arrives at Soji's planet, and Raffi's calls Soji honey. It seems as though she's calling everybody honey now. Quirky Girardi realises where they are, that they've gone to Soji's planet, and she says, am I still under arrest? Well, you know, honey, you're on your own now, so obviously they're not that worried about you.
Not at all, you know. This is only where she wanted to go to stop them all.
Yeah.
But it's fine. Just leave her. She's all good.
Yeah, and then she starts grinning like a maniacal loon. What's all that about again? But Quirky Girardi. So Soji says that her planet is called Capalius or something like that. It seems that she's starting to get her memories back now of where she came from. We find out that Narek's ship has also arrived at the planet. It starts firing on them. Then the Borg cube comes out of the transwarp conduit as well. That also arrives. Little note I made here. Totally different departure times for these three ships when they entered the conduit system, yet all three ships, the Lacerina, Narek's ship and the Borg cube, they all emerge from the conduit within a minute of each other.
Yeah.
The science here is like, But this gets even better then, because then 5 of these big orchid flower spaceship thingies come up from the planet's surface, and one of them, I think 3 of them latch onto the Borg cube, and one of them presumably attacked Narek's ship. Another one swallows up the Lacerina, drains its power, and then we see the Borg cube and the Lacerina, and presumably Narek's ship as well, all go crashing down to the planet. The flower thing, the orchid flower thing, I mean, it's just totally nonsensical, isn't it?
Oh god, it's awful. I was hysterically laughing when there was like they were pulling the Borg cube down. But there's one bit before that I don't know Star Trek that well. But when Narek is chasing them, he uses his cloaking device to project his ship out in front of him.
To make it look like he's damaged or something like that?
Yeah.
Because he comes in at another angle.
I'm pretty sure that's not how cloaking works.
No. I don't recall ever cloaking technology being used in that way. I know they've used holograms in space to project ships to make them look like ships that are there. That they did that in an episode of Basics Part 1 or 2 or something like that. They did it with the Kazon attack. But no, I don't think you're right. The cloaking device, no. But it doesn't have to matter. It doesn't have to make sense. This is how Star Trek is now.
Of course, just nonsensical shit.
Yeah, all the rules are out the door. So on the subject of the orchid flowers and things as well, some people have said online about what's this all about. There is organic space technology in lots of science fiction, and one of the ones that sticks out in my mind is the Vorlon ships in Babylon 5. They're organic, and they actually did look a lot like those orchid flower things. But Star Trek's always been a little bit more in the realm of science, and at least give us a bit of an explanation. But in this episode, we just make them. That's it. We've got 10 of them or something. The trailer at the end for the next one, it looks like they've somehow managed in the space of a day to build about another 300 of them. So, I don't know. Who makes them? Where's where are they all grown? What was the technology to do it? They're massive. So there's no indication of anything in that compound where they all live. Anyway, I'm jumping ahead. Yeah. So so they latch onto the ships, and the ships all come crashing down onto the planet. Picard goes into this weird kind of trance thing, and he says, "Thank you for coming, everyone." His acting is awful in that bit, by the way. It's awful in most of the episode, actually. And I think that's when you go to the opening credits of the episode, possibly. I can't remember because I didn't jot that down. But in any case, he wakes up in sick bay with Jurati. She says that she scanned him and she knows that he's got Irumodic syndrome. She starts to get all soppy and weepy, even though she barely knows the man.
And she's betrayed them as well.
And she's betrayed them.
So they just left him alone with this unconscious man who they want to kill.
Yeah.
So, that's fine.
So Picard calls the crew together because he tells them about his condition. Again, they all look sad and whatnot. And again, even though, with the exception of maybe Raffi, who we're told that he's known her for a long time and that. But, Soji, Rios, they're all looking sad, and you don't really know, they don't really know him well enough to warrant those kind of facial expressions that they're giving. But he says there will be no further discussions. Anyone who treats me like a dying man will run the risk of pissing me off. Is that clear? So again, this is contemporary Star Trek, the use of real world terminology and language and stuff like that we use today. I've said this before in many, many videos. It's in use in the Trek universe now, despite never really being used in previous Trek incarnations. The reason why I mention it is because it's really jarring. It feels out of place in this universe that we once knew and loved. Not now.
That is the bit where I turned it off as well.
Really?
That's what I was like, I don't give a fucking shit about this show.
Yeah. And there is also that point about, would Picard really say pissing me off? It's up to the people who are listening to us talking about this, whether they think he would or not. I personally don't think he would. There's been no indications that he ever really would have used that. The argument is, 20 years have gone by, he's a different man now. I think people do change, but I don't know. So Soji is starting to remember things, and Jurati says to her, do they hate us? Meaning her people. People hating is a big central theme of Star Trek Picard, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
People like, who we hate and who we don't hate and all this kind of thing. So it's a bit sort of out from thin air. Do they hate us? I think really she should know that if she had that admonition vision thing going on in her head and she decided to kill Maddox over it. She should understand something about it. But even so, that goes up for a bone in this episode because they kind of wash all that away as well in a bit. But we'll come to that. But so they decide to take a walk from the crashed ship to Soji's settlement because the ship doesn't work, it's crashed and whatnot. The special effects for the outside of the ship, I noticed, they are really bad.
They were awful. Every background was just dreadful.
In comparison to what they can do today and what they have done in these kind of shows, it's like something from the early 1990s, isn't it?
Yeah, it didn't look convincing at all.
No. They see the crashed Borg ship in the distance, and then they decide that they're going to go there instead of going to Soji's settlement because they want to go and find out if Hugh and Elnor survived. Picard points out that time is of the essence, but they decide to go anyway because they want to check out if their friends have potentially survived, and as they use the word friends, so that's presumably more important than this massive Romulan fleet that's 2 days away from the planet and impending doom and all the rest of it. But they go anyway. Presumably because, we want to see Elnor again, don't we? Poor Elnor.
Of course, yeah.
So we see that the Borg cube is largely in one piece, despite the fact that it came crashing down through the atmosphere and plummeted to the ground and hit the ground. There doesn't seem to be any signs of any ecological damage on the surface around this massive Borg ship that's crashed. It's a bit like the Death Star in Rise of Skywalker, isn't it? It's the same kind of thing, you know. It's worse in this case because there's no crater. I think it's sort of half sat in the sea or something like that, the Borg ship is. But even visually from the outside, it doesn't look that damaged. There's some smoke and stuff coming off it and things like that. But of course, these things don't have to be realistic anymore because it's Kurtzman Trek now, and you know.
Maybe the flowers just very slowly and gently placed it on the ground.
That's the answer. Gently, delicately landed the Borg ship, but didn't quite manage it because there's a bit of fire going on and that, and some damage inside, obviously, but. So we see a number of these ex-Borg that they're inside the Borg cube and they're repairing it. One of them calls Picard Locutus, which, yet again in this series, it seems to really unnerve Picard, even though it seems as though Picard was pretty much over all of his Locutus experience and all that, but that's something they keep coming back to in this series. Poor Elnor appears again. He runs up to Picard, he gives him a hug. "You're alive! This fills me with joy." And then 7 of 9 appears, casually kicks a dead body of a Borg, just throws it over a ledge or something, kicks it out of the way, just because it's in her way.
Of course, naturally.
Are you here to tell... what is it? Are you here to help me with the clean-up, or do you just want to make more mess, or something like that, she says to Picard. So Picard is Picard bashing again. Picard makes a lot of mess, and all this kind of thing causes a lot of problems. 7 is Picard bashing, but she's also really smarmy when she says it as well. It's really... not the 7 of 9 we know and love anymore, it really isn't. So Picard learns that Hugh is dead. This is the first time he's learned that Hugh is dead now. And this really half-arsed and blasé way, "Oh, poor Hugh. It must have taken appalling brutality to turn such a gentle soul to violence." Now, is he referring to Hugh there? Because I didn't understand what he was getting at, the reference.
No.
So I assumed he was talking about Hugh.
Yeah, I assume so, yeah.
And he says he's a gentle soul, but if it was Hugh he was talking about, what's this violence that he turned to? He says, "Poor Hugh, it must have taken appalling brutality to turn such a gentle soul to violence." What violence did he carry out? Did I miss something in the plot? In the so-called plot?
Not a clue.
No.
He got killed. He didn't do overly a lot of fighting.
No, Picard doesn't seem to be talking about anybody else at that point. There's a real shonky plot hole there. What that's about, I don't know. So they get the scanners on the Borg cube working, and they learn that there are 218 Romulan warbirds on the way to the planet. Now, this was one of my big pet hates of this episode. If the Romulan Empire was in such a shambles after the supernova, why then didn't they use these 218 warbirds help to evacuate some of the people from Romulus and that? If the argument is that they weren't built until after the supernova, then clearly the Romulan Empire isn't in as much as a shambles as everybody makes it out to be. They keep going on about it, but we get no explanation of this. You know, where have all these bloody ships come from? What was the technology, you know? If they existed before, why didn't they use them? If they were built afterwards, well, they've got a planet full of Romulan settlers that were just abandoned and all that, so they've presumably got the technology to... It's just the internal continuity of the series. It's a farce. Nobody's keeping track of these kinds of things. The points of plot holes, continuity of the lot. It's just not. It's totally nonsensical.
Maybe they just forgot, you know.
Yeah.
Just forgot about all these ships.
I do. I think you're right. I absolutely do think you're right. They just don't. It goes in an episode and then they don't even remember. I mean, they can't remember proper Star Trek. So if they can't remember their own series, then.
Yeah.
So we have Picard saying, "I'm beginning to think that all we do these days is say goodbye to this Elnor. But this time it's worse because you're dying," Elnor says to Picard. He says, "I'm torn. You need my protection now more than ever." Picard says, "No, the XBs," I hate that terminology, "the XBs need your protection much more now than I do." So Picard, once again, he's just brushing off Elnor onto somebody else. It's somebody else's problem. That's all he seems to have done in the series, doesn't it, since he's reunited with him?
His entire character is just, okay, fuck off then.
Yeah, fuck off Elnor, yeah. And it kind of shows that Elnor's a bit sort of whipped, really, because he's like, anybody else would have said, "You know what, just you look after yourself, Picard. I'm done here, basically. You know, I'm off."
Yeah.
He keeps coming back for more, and then Elnor's protesting. He wants to remain with Picard. Picard, "I am very, very proud of you," Picard says. To which I would say, well, he's always had a funny way of showing it, hasn't he?
He has, yeah.
But good little Elnor, he plays nice, he agrees, and then 7 of 9 says to Picard, keep saving the galaxy, Picard. Even though 2 seconds ago she said, you keep making a mess of everything, Picard. And then Picard says, that's all on you now, so 7's going to save the galaxy now. So
it's like they just forget what they wrote on like the last page.
Yeah, on the last page of the script, yeah, they've just forgotten it. So the gang, they arrive at Soji's home, sort of little town compound type thing. We see loads of these new age type sort of androids. A lot of them have got gold skin and gold eyes like Data did. I did notice that there were sizably female androids amongst the population, a lot more females than men.
Yeah, most of them were.
There were a few men, but I noticed there were some black male synths, a lot of what you'd term non-white. So, we have synth diversity and representation here being displayed in a very sort of tokenistic, rather than any depth or true subtlety or conviction to what they're trying to say. It's just, oh, here it is on screen. Loads of butterflies flying around all over the place, and the reason why I noted this, it's a boon for those people like myself who research the whole Monarch, MK Ultra, trauma-based mind control programming symbolism that is in a lot of the shows and films that are produced by the JJ Brigade types. It's sort of symbolistic of that. And also a lot of twins as well. We see a lot of twins amongst the synths. And that's also another motif of the aforementioned symbolism. So we've got quite a bit going on there. So for people who are interested in those subjects, they can have a bit of a field day with that one. We meet Arcana, and this is the English accented synth who tells Soji, we missed you so. So bloody annoying. Her acting is awful, really, really awful. I'm assuming she's American, just putting on an English accent. I didn't do a check on who the actress is and what nationality she is, but it's worse if she is English because it's really, really bad. Captain Picard, I feel surprisingly moved to meet you.
Why didn't they just dub someone who
Yeah.
has that accent?
Yeah, and she starts poking the wrinkles on Picard's face.
Oh, yeah.
They imply so much more. Grief, endurance, marvellous. Basically, what we got going on here is it's like this goddamn sort of 70s hippie new age colony, but the synths, like Esalen in Big Sur in the 90s, it's like new age paradise, for synth. That's the way they've modelled it, haven't they, with the clothes they're wearing and all that kind of thing. It's all sort of very highbrow and all that.
Yeah.
But apparently, it said here, you might be able to correct me on this one, you might be able to pick me up on this one, I don't know, but apparently Soji had a mission to complete, and that she completed it. It's never defined in the dialogue what that mission was. Maybe there's something I missed in a previous episode. Can you remember what this mission was?
I think hers was to investigate what was going on the Borg cube, and then Darge's was to investigate Starfleet and that. I think.
See, I thought again, like I say, it's not in any way, shape, or form in the dialogue did they say what this mission was. You just have to kind of assume. I can't remember whether there was any direct dialogue in earlier episodes that that's what it was, but are you like me that we're just sort of surmising that from the way the story's gone?
Yeah, it might have been said. I
can't
remember.
Right now, but I might be wrong on that one, but yeah. So Soji tells them that the Romulans are on their way, and then Brent Spiner appears, plays Data, but in this episode he
is totally Law. He is Law.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying that, aren't they? Yeah. But in this episode he says he's Dr. Alton Inigo Soon. Picard says he looks just like Data. Data if he'd gotten old and gone soft. That's what Soon said. So we've got some Data bashing there as well. We've also got some age bashing and presumably white male bashing as well. Data who's gotten old and soft. He says that he's Dr. Noonien Soon's son who created Data. Now, I went away and checked my Star Trek encyclopedia, as I always do with these things, in case there was anything that I'd forgotten. But I was under the impression that Noonien Soon never had any biological children, and apparently that was one of the reasons why he wanted to create androids. There was other reasons as well why he wanted to create them, but that was one of the reasons. And we also had Juliana Soon, who was the android version anyway of Juliana Soon, who was Noonien Soon's wife, and is sort of established in the series as being effectively Data's mother. She and Noonien Soon never had any biological children. Noonien Soon may have had some children at some point else in the sort of off-screen, but I mean, what does the canon of Star Trek matter these days to these people? And then we meet this synth called Sutra, as in the Kama Sutra. She looks like Soji, so they're obviously using the same model again as they did with Darj. Jurati agrees Maddox's death was utterly necessary.
Yeah, they say it was necessary, and then they proceed to basically show throughout the entire episode that they were already around anyway.
Yeah.
So it didn't matter that he was killed, it was completely pointless.
Yeah. It's proposed that without any evidence, I might add, that Jurati was out of her mind when she killed Maddox. That she was implanted with this memory by Commodore O that made her temporarily insane. So the writers are basically letting Jurati off the hook, aren't they? For everything she's
Completely,
done.
yeah.
And they, again, with no evidence, they propose that this admonition memory experience, whatever it is, that it was a synthetic memory, not designed for biological life forms.
Yeah.
And they say that's the reason why it made them go crazy. But we get to the best one now. This was the doozy. This, of all of Star Trek Picard, this one for me was an absolute beauty. Right, so I'm going to go into a little bit of a rant for a minute, and then you jump in when you want to, right?
Yeah.
Sutra says that she needs to access the memories that Jurati's got in her head. So, wait for it, she mind melds.
Alright, yeah.
She mind melds with Jurati to access the admonition memory. Right, now, first of all, mind melding, it isn't something that it's just done by people. It's dependent upon the biology of a Vulcan. It's been pretty clearly established in the series that you have to be in some way Vulcan to do it. Vulcans have got these like biological receptors in their fingertips that allow them to. That's why they touch the heads. That's how the transfer of neural biological information passes into a Vulcan's mind. Hence why it's called the mind meld. So in other words, only Vulcans or part Vulcans in some capacity can mind meld. That's the be all and end all of it. Sutra can't mind meld, right? She's not a Vulcan. She's not even a biological entity. They could have explained this away if they'd used, and it would have been really convenient, a plot contrivance. But if they'd have said, "Oh, Sutra was designed to emulate Vulcan biology. She's got these little artificial receptors in her fingertips like Vulcans have. We designed her that way." But the crazy-ass writers on this show, they don't even do that. They just say, "Oh, she's interested in Vulcan culture, so she taught herself how to do it." So
Sure. Why not?
Yeah. I mean, my thinking is like, well, anybody can mind meld now. Anybody can be a Force ghost. Anybody can use the Force. Anybody can have superpowers. It's like, it's all-inclusive now. No restrictions, no limitations. Anybody can do anything. It doesn't matter if your biology prevents you from doing it. I'm just staggered. History be damned, canon be damned, the whole mythology of science fiction be damned. Let's just destroy everything, let's just start again. To these specifications of a very small number of people. Actually, that sounds like a metaphor for much of what's going on in the world at the moment, actually, if you think about it, but that's a discussion for another time. Very small number of people saying, let's just upend everything. And we'll have it this way now. But, there it is. Sutra's mind meld with Jurati. She sees the admonition imagery, so it works. How? I don't know. Including robot images that the producers of this show, evidentially, it's been proven on the internet now that they stole them from Shutterstock and tweaked them, the data image before it turns into data. People have put photographs of comparisons up of these Shutterstock images, so they just blatantly ripped them off from somebody else.
Yeah, there's another one there actually. The fox that's rotting in the vision. If you Google search like rotting fox or something like that,
right,
like that image is the first one that shows
really?
up.
Wow.
Yeah. Apparently, yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me. So the result of all of this mind meld admonition crap is that we learn that there is this extragalactic race of synthetic life forms who, whether they live in our galaxy or not, I don't know. I assumed that they were extragalactic, they were out of it, but it's never really. They want to wipe out all biological life and protect the synthetic lives. And then Dr. Alton Soon says, shame on you, Agnes. You put a small bright candle shedding its light in a vast darkness. You owe a great debt. He's talking about the fact that she killed Maddox and what Jurati owes. But it's interesting that wording, that the Trek universe is subtly worded now as a vast darkness. Dark times ahead indeed for Star Trek as well as everything else.
No hope anymore.
Yeah, no hope. So Soon gives Jurati a chance to atone for what she's done, even though it doesn't matter what she's done now because everyone's forgiven her and all that, apart from these guys. And he shows her a golem life form that's been created.
Yeah.
and he says he's getting closer to mind implantation. I'm assuming this is going to be a setup for the following episode.
Picard will probably end up in that when he dies from his illness.
But it's set up, and then that's it. It's never mentioned again, is it? So
yeah.
So Sutra says to Soji that they should honour the admonition and help to wipe out all biological life. So yeah, so it looks like that's the plan. They're going to go. They're flip flop now on everything. They're not bothered about biological life. They're going to do that. The synths have found Narek alive. He was just wandering around aimlessly in the desert, as you do.
Of course.
And they imprison him. Then Jurati shows Rios an artificially created cat called Spot, which is another member berry to Data's cat in Star Trek The Next Generation. Thrown in there for the fans. What ones are left? You are many things, Agnes P. Jurati. Forgettable is not one of them. That's what Rios says to Jurati.
Oh, that's funny.
I disagree with that statement. I want to forget her so very, very much.
Yes.
I really do. So then we have Arcana again, who gives Raffi a magic hand device to fix the ship. It works by, as she puts it, you have to use your imagination. That's it. Honestly, the writers really did put that line in the show. This magic device, they say it's a magic hand device that it works with just by using your imagination, and it'll fix the Lacerina.
I guess we're now in Kids Disney Channel, apparently.
They really, really did do that. So Picard, Raffi to Picard, after everything you've done for me, I need to say thank you. I love you, and she gives him a hug and all that. Now, Picard hasn't really done anything for her in this series.
No, not at all.
And I was under the impression that Raffi didn't think that he'd done anything for her either that was good anyway.
No, he kind of ruined her career.
Yeah,
So...
yeah. So, but from that dialogue now, it says something else. So I suppose we should just accept that and move on, like Jurati and everything else. It's just, well, it's all right now. And then he says, I love you too, Raffi. Would Picard really have said that? I don't know.
Well, he's already deeply in love with Data, so it doesn't really make sense.
Even though he never told him for the entire duration of the Star Trek duration and the films, and never told anybody else amongst his immediate crew, actually, that he loved them. So, unless I've missed something along the way. But Raffi's different. She's part of the new brigade, so, it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
So Raffi and Rios, they're going to go off and repair the ship, and I don't think we see them again after that for the rest of the episode. So we're with Narek now, and he speaks to Soji. I've got to read some of this dialogue out to you, because I always say you couldn't write this stuff, but somebody did. So he tells her that he loves her. This is the dialogue now. Soji says, I know. What a sad and twisted thing you are. You disgust me, Narek, but not as much as I disgust myself for pitying you. And then he says back, and I pity you, because we are going to rain down fire on your world and kill every so-called living thing on it. Even you, my love. So we've got the return of the soap opera love affair dialogue. I really thought that had gone by now, but
maybe they just let their children write the script or something.
Yeah.
Not,
or as
not
I
them.
said last time, just give the keyboard of my laptop to my dog and just let him mash his paws on it, and something
It would be better.
coherent will come out of it. So Picard and Soji are talking about Jurati and Maddox because there's the holographic picture. They were very close, Picard said to Soji. So now they are just disregarding the fact that Jurati murdered Maddox completely. Everybody's like, they're very close and all that kind of. But Soji says, I couldn't understand it, let alone imagine myself doing something like that, taking life to save a life, hurting some to save others. I guess I'm just trying to understand the logic of sacrifice. And I took that as being like a ham-fisted social commentary with a bit of a dollop of personal identity signal in it as well. This idea that you can't would you sacrifice for other people if it meant killing people, all this kind of thing. So they're trying to say something about that, but it's so ham-fisted. It's not,
Yeah.
But Picard says, I think it depends on if you're the person holding the knife. So somebody in the writers' room was trying to balance the argument a little bit, but again, it was so wishy-washy. What they're trying to say is anybody's guess, really. We flip back to Narek, and Sutra visits him and opens up the cell for him. And she says that she wants his services. The whole sort of... She lets him out, basically, and it looks like the synth Saga... Was that her name? Saga? God, I don't know.
Can't remember.
She's found dead with a butterfly brooch that she wears around on her clothes, stabbed in her eye. So we've got another violent, horrible eye death in this, or something to that effect. The assumption on the characters here that Narek did it when he escaped, but the question is, was it Sutra? Because Sutra let Narek out and said, we need your services. So because this writing in this show is so crap, it's kind of answered seconds later, because Soji's wrestling with her conscience. I didn't want to kill him. Why didn't I want to kill him, Narek? But then Narek's seen heading for the Borg cube, by the way, which how the hell he got there that quick, I don't know. Because she's literally just minutes. He's left the compound.
It was the power of angst.
Yeah, the power of angst got him there, yeah. Because then, like I say, Sutra, then she says, she just changes her mind. The organics are the true threat. She says that she thinks that they use this subspace frequency, which now, that was conveniently embedded in that vision. They've now got a way to communicate with the super synthetic species that's going to come, and they're going to contact them and going to tell them to come, and they're going to tell them to basically wipe out all organic life in the galaxy. And Dr. Soon seems to like that idea, despite the fact that at this point in time he seems to be an organic life form, although, as you said, you think he's probably Laura's on that. I think that's going to be the crap twist in the next episode, that he is also artificial, he's not, organic. But he says that they're going to create a super thin synthetic version of the Federation that will last forever and wipe out all the others. Picard starts getting on his high horse about it then. He says basically, I'll be your advocate and we'll go to the Federation, all this kind of thing. Sutra says, are you and your Federation any different from the Romulans? Picard says, you will fulfill their prophecy. You will become the destroyer after all. Looking at Soji, it seems like Soji's going along with it now as well. It all happens so fast and so conveniently for the plot. Because Picard, he says he's going to be an advocate for them, and Dr. Soon says, the Federation won't listen to you. They didn't listen to you before when the Mars attack happened and all that. So they say they're going to lock him up. You think they're going to lock Jurati up as well, but she flip-flops again. Her loyalty's all over the place. She says she wants to be with the synths. She wants to help them. Dr. Soon says she's as close to a mother as any of you will know. A bit of a violent mother. They all agree she's going to go along with them. She's organic. We're assuming she's organic. What happens to her when the big bad race comes along?
I was fucking screaming at the TV at this part. I just thought it was so shit. I was, oh god, fuck this show. It's so shit.
Yeah, because it kind of just sort of... the only other thing that happens after that point is we see the Commodore O on the bridge of her flagship ahead of these god knows how many Romulan ships, and they're 24 hours away from the planet. That's it, really. But I know what you're saying about that, because all that stuff, it's so convenient how it all just sort of comes together at the end, doesn't it, like that?
Yeah.
It really is shit. That really is all I can say about it. I ranted in the previous episode. I haven't got the same, like I say, I haven't got the same level of about it as I did with that one. I think I kind of just washed my hands of it, really. I can see it for what it is. And I did say this two-parter would be like Such Sweet Sorrow, the season 2 finale of Discovery. It's following all those beats of nonsensical things happening, magic devices and all that kind of stuff. And the big battle with all the ships, that's going to happen in the next episode, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts then, overall?
It's just nothing this episode. Just not that much happens. What does happen is bullshit and terrible and makes no sense.
Yeah.
And there's actually nothing of 1 out of 10 this episode, nothing of quality.
Yeah. I'm with you on that one. That's the same with me. Score is 1. And the only reason I give the 1 is, should you give things a score just because they don't piss you off and get you angry and, because you kind of just checked out? I kind of liked little tiny bits of the idea about the Borg ship crashing down and all that kind of thing, and Narek, little tiny things to do in Narek, and that he's obviously continuing his plot to do what he's got to do for the Jacques Vache and all that, Those are the little tiny things that I will give it 1 for. That little nugget of a story idea just seems to have been thrown out the window, doesn't it? What was all the stuff with the Borg ship all about? The Borg cube and all that was going on there. What are we going to get any explanation for any of that? They spent so much of those episodes on that ship, didn't they? Reclaiming the Borg and all that. And
I guess it's just so they can have it fight in the next episode, I guess.
Yeah, so they can have the big Borg ship there for the battle. That's it.
Yeah, that must be it.
That's it. Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. It was just to get a big whopping great Borg ship, and potentially more Borg ships if Seven hooks herself up again and calls in the rest of the Borg.
Which she probably will.
We will see.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it. There really isn't much else I can say about it. It's a 1 for me. It's pointless, nonsensical. It's gone nowhere. It hasn't fulfilled any of the tiny little bits of potential that were there for the story. Acting's awful. Elnor, one of the main cast members, what was the point of his story arc? Help people. And bully him, yeah.
Bully him, I guess.
Help people, let him help people,
Yeah.
and then pull him down. So, anything else you wanted to say about it before we put it to bed?
Just, I'm sorry if you've watched the show this long, really. It's not good, and I kind of wish I hadn't at all.
Well, it gives us something to unintentionally have a laugh about, anyway.
I suppose, yeah.
Yeah. We've got one more left, so I think it's a pretty safe bet where this is going to go. I think we know where this is going to go. This is now Star Trek Picard is now full on Star Trek Discovery in every sense of the word. The only thing it lacks is somebody as utterly as Michael Burnham. This time yet, Jurati's getting there.
She is, yeah.
But it's totally the model, the template for Star Trek Discovery is now what that's how they make Star Trek. And they've just any potential they had there for something good here with Picard is gone now. It's gone.
Yep.
So yeah, with that I think we'll wrap things up. Thank you so much for joining me. All being well, we'll be in there in a couple of days' time for the finale, and we'll knot something together video. Even if it ends up being something like this, we'll do something for that as well.
Yeah.
I think we're about 2 days away from that now, 2 or 3 days away.
Yeah, Thursday.
Alrighty then. So wherever you are and whatever you're doing in the world, keep safe. Don't worry. Be happy, as the song goes. And as Douglas Adams once famously wrote, "Don't panic. All will be good in the end." I also want to say as well, if you would like to click the like button for this video, share it about, I would really, truly appreciate it. If you'd like to subscribe to the channel, I would also appreciate that. The bell icon for notifications as well. Look after yourself, and we will see you in the next video.
Bye.